Nick Aalerud, good morning, my friend. How are you?
What's up, Galter? How are you, brother?
Good, man. Just handling technical difficulties, but it's good now. You are a killer. You're a champion. You've been slaying it in the real estate space for years. You've been around a little longer than me, and you've amassed a lot more than me. So it's great to learn from people like you who are ahead, but you're in my market. You're not too far away. Where did you get started? How did you get started in real estate?
You jumped right into this, brother. I like it.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I'm like talking to you, but I'm also trying to fix my tech issues here alone. So I'm like working back and forth, fixing tech. So thanks, man, for having me on. Yeah, what'd you say? How did I get started? I mean, that's boring, right? Everybody knows that. I lost a board game called Risk, Game of Global Domination. You're aware of that game, Galter?
I didn't know. No, I didn't know. I love Risk.
Get out. It's the Monopoly version for real estate investors. What Risk is to politics majors, right?
Yep.
So like
Risk, I love. I've played the game a lot. Yeah, I get that one. Yep.
Yeah, there it is. So lost that game, and I just basically turned on TV. It was 2:30 in the morning. My buddies were still playing over there on the table, and I saw my first infomercial on TV, and it was buy real estate pennies on the dollar. And I was very excited about that, but not really. I was basically just doing anything to take my mind off of losing the game. So as a joke, I called up using my cell to 2:30, paid $50 for a binder, and all my buddies were laughing at me, right? Because that's what was happening. So, and I'll be quick with that story. I mean, I know you personally have heard the story before, so I'll be quick for your resonance there. We went through that. It was a binder of real estate. I read through it and said, if you're serious about real estate, call this 800 number. I guess I'm serious. So I called the 800 number, and the best salesperson in the world talked me into my very first $6,000 over the phone boot camp.
Wow.
And yes, 3 credit cards, put them together. I was, fresh out of college with, no future and with a politics degree. And I was a banker in Boston. So decided to go for it. And learned a lot. It didn't teach me how to execute until later. What it did teach me, though, it got me to read the book, which I'm sure you and your listeners have already all read, which was the Rich Dad Poor Dad book, right? Yeah. So absolutely. That was the first exposure I had to Kiyosaki in that book. And then that changed my whole way of thinking, my whole way of life. And I can speed through the bumps and bruises from there, but there were many. You've heard a few of them yourselves personally. I'm happy to share with the listeners if they want to hear it, but otherwise I don't want to bore people. I ended up, my first 5 deals in real estate left me with $400,000 in the hole. Went from a credit score of about 800 down to about 350, which does happen. 10 loans reporting bad on your credit. It was a bad partnership out of state that involved some fraudulent activity that I was a victim of. But in the end, I realized that I was only a victim of myself, right? Not doing enough due diligence, not setting myself up to succeed, not knowing what I didn't know, and not admitting I didn't know what I didn't know. So I had to restart in real estate after those first 5 horrible deals and being in a really bad place for 6 to 8 months with collections calls, and never filed bankruptcy, but I restarted wholesaling. Those 5 deals were all out of state too. It was an out of state partner. And essentially restarted in the Somerville, Cambridge market, found a guy at one of the real estate meetups. Back then they were called RIAs. And he was condoing 3 families, Somerville and Cambridge. And I met him at one of those networking groups. I was kind of embarrassed of my past and where I just come through with, 4 short sales and a foreclosure on my report. And he said, this is what I'm looking for. You want to go hustle for me when you're not working nights and weekends? Go all to it. So nights and weekends, I finally got my phone back out, started hustling on the phone and knocking on doors, talking to a lot of tents, and just getting contracts signed and then flipping the contracts to this gentleman who taught me kind of what he looked for his buy box. He then got me involved with his construction crew, and I got to learn more about his how to estimate construction. And 8 months later, I had enough to do a down payment on my first my own 3-family triple decker, where I was able to get a hard money loan, my first one. Realizing that you could then do real estate without credit because that's all I could do.
Right.
And I broke even. I broke even on that first deal in Somerville, and that was the biggest win I ever had. And while I still worked at the bank full time for like another year and a half, I never looked back. Right. So 350 rehabs later, and we had I think the biggest thing was just getting our rules together, getting our systems and procedures and buy boxes and criteria. And then I couldn't afford to lose any money. So it's like, how do I do this so I can't lose money? Like, how do I trick myself into just not being able to lose any more money? And it's been successful. We've kind of stayed to those same rules for, the last 18 years. So it's been good.
Yeah. I love that, Nick. So your story is a story of fail, fail, fail. When you think it can't get worse, it gets worse. And then because it got so bad, it couldn't get any worse. You actually did find the bottom in real estate, and then you were able to build up from that point. So many systems and structures in place where you now in 18 years, you've done 350 deals. Those are flips typically, right? Are you holding some of this now, or are you typically turning and burning a lot of these?
Yeah, our strategies all changed when we started. So I was always a rehabber first, right? And then I got into, well, I was a wholesaler first, but then I was like, I'm graduating out of this wholesale business. I'm going to be a rehabber. And I was a rehabber for years and years and years until I realized there was a whole bunch of deals that I was leaving on the table because let's say I didn't have the cash to take them all down or to do the rehabs on all of them. So reestablished, a wholesale business back in 2010 and started wholesaling again. And then I didn't have good credit, so I couldn't actually hold rentals long-term until maybe 2013 and 14 when all those stuff finally fell off my credit report, right? Yep. So
that was actually perfect timing.
Yeah,
perfect timing. I guess. Wait longer.
That's a good point. I was still scared though. Like I ended up buying a bunch of little rentals out in like Western Pennsylvania while my credit wasn't good because I could buy everything cash. Right? You buy a property out there for like 15, 20 grand, put 15 into it, and you can rent it $500 a month. It's not a great model, but it was all I could do. Right. So I started amassing some small rentals, and from there just started building what I now turned out it was a property management system, and sort of tested it on my own portfolio, and finally brought that back, to Greater Boston and New Hampshire. And so it's little by little. Now we do all the strategies, just like you. We, buy and hold, buy and fix and flip, buy and wholesale, whatever makes money and builds wealth for us and for the team.
Right. And I love that you just said for the team. So how is your team integral in all this? Because obviously you're doing out of state, you're doing it locally, you're doing fixes, you're doing rentals, now you're doing property management. How important is your team? How big is the team getting, and where do you see it going?
Oh, man. Well, so it's funny, that kind of puts in on a passion note, right? I did not know how to scale this business. I thought I knew, but I didn't really know how to scale this business until maybe 3 years ago. It took me that long before I stopped thinking of myself as like a 2 and 3 person operation to then realizing, right, what a team can do and to leverage other people and really how my role would change. Like I was no longer really talking to the sellers anymore. I was no longer trying to make the deals happen. I was there to try to support and motivate. That was a whole new change. I know you have you and your teams, like you've got your stuff figured out. I'm still figuring it out every day, but
I'm still figuring it out every day.
But you just nailed it, right? Like this team, they now are pushing me, right, on a day-to-day basis. Like I am now holding myself to a higher standard because it's not just me in the loop anymore. Now I'm kind of overseeing the well-being of a bunch of people. And while we're all responsible for our own success, I make sure that I'm there to support, I'm there to motivate, I'm there to share with them kind of where their mindset's supposed to be at, and whatever I can do to help support them, the better. And it is all about the team now. If anyone joins us, the moment we see, and it's okay, people can do this as a solopreneur, right? But the moment we start to see that glimmer, like, I'm just going to go start off and do this on my own, we're like, that's good. Like, go for it. We support you. But, you're not we're a team here. Like, you don't belong here with us, but you can do it on your own, so go for it.
So what is the team? What people are you looking to attract to the team? Because I know you guys are growing. Are you looking for agents? Are you looking for contractors, property managers, more private capital? What is your big focus right now? Who are you looking for?
Yes.
Yeah. Same as all of us, right? We're all looking for all of those.
The same as all. Well, and similar to you, it's funny because the struggles, like we've got a bunch of capital. We've got, we're always looking to build our agent team, like a lot of people, but we're looking for people that can come in and embrace the core values that we have as a company, right? We have 4 very, very strong core values, right? We have integrity, we have service, we have teamwork and impact. And everything we do, everything we talk about, everything we lead from is from those 4 principles. So we're very picky about who kind of joins us at this point, and we've learned a lot of lessons about culture and keeping the right people together. And even if someone's a star and a hunter and a killer on a salesperson side, they might not be the best for the team itself, right? So we learned a lot of lessons as we go. And even now, we are very much always growing and recruiting and talking to people, but we're very, very, very selective. And we have, you asked how the team's set up. We do have a property management company and a property management arm. So we're looking constantly for like certain pods of property managers that are willing to kind of work with our systems that we have set up. We have our real estate firm. We have about 40 agents now, and we're looking to very slowly grow that, but again, strategically with the right people. And we have our home buyer team. Our home buyer team is, we've got a couple of callers that just help and hit the phones all day. We've got a couple of acquisition specialists, John and Dickens, and they're just out there meeting with the sellers and trying to get things signed based on our training, right, that we've trained them to do. And then we have, a lead specialist that sort of works with all those people, solution specialist that helps craft the perfect solutions for the acquisition specialist to then go out and try to craft. So it's pretty solid. And then it's just like people and process, right? Like my few challenges are not necessarily like, oh, this deal's falling apart, I got to get that done. Now my issues every day are like, how can I find, good people to work with me on this? And what do I need to do to be a better leader to attract those people? Whole different mindset than I ever would have been 3 years ago. So I'll take notes from you, man. Whoever wants to share notes with me on leadership and team building, I'm all in.
I love that, Nick. And some of the conversations we've had, because you're not just an investor, you're not just a team leader and builder. You also do a lot of free education. You give a lot away at Black Diamond, which is a group that you either built or helped build with Ann Barabee in 2 massive locations. I think if you're not the biggest, you're the second biggest, but I'm pretty sure you're the biggest real estate investment group in Massachusetts. Is that safe to say?
We don't count us by our size, Galter, but I appreciate your kind words.
So every time I go there, you guys deliver a ton of value. And for me as a networker, I find a ton of people in the room. So I'll say that it's the biggest that I've been to. And so, yes, you've done a great job building that and attracting a phenomenal group of people. Do you offer coaching? Is that something that you offer, or is that something that it's exclusive? You have to be in the company to get access to?
Gotcha. Depending on the type of coaching. So first of all, thank you on your kind words with Black Diamond. It was a labor of love. I mean, obviously no one's ever, we didn't do it with the intent of making money. We did it with the intent of bringing solid people together in a room. And that's exactly what you just shared with me, which means the world. We were quality over quantity. So even if we only had 25 people in that room, if everyone was of a certain caliber, right, we did our job and people were making deals to happen together. On the coaching side, so there's different kinds of coaching. We do have, I don't know, if I'm sharing it with your listeners or not, but we do have, something called the Complete Deal Flow System, which is how I started in wholesaling. And that itself is a course that I really crafted. It was just my own rules and how I was working with sellers and how I was buying and how I did assignments and how I did back-to-back closings and the trust assignments, like all the stuff I was learning as I went through, in 07 to 2014, 15, really. We put it all together in one big program. Really, for me, it was my systems and procedures and my marketing pieces and my contracts. But then, well, you know something? If we can attract better people, right, and maybe do more deals, let's teach other people how to do this. And right. I was mad at someone, maybe how you were mad at the people who were charging not just $6,000, but $10,000, $20,000, $40,000 and $50,000 for like annual coaching, and they weren't even from here, right? They're from California or Florida or Texas and like the nice sunny states that we're all pissed, mad that we're not there. So I'm like, how do we do this and not have to charge a bunch of money for it? So we just basically put this program together, and I do feel that people have to pay for something or else it doesn't have any value. So we put it out there, for like $500, and all it was for people to get access to our entire system. And the goal was to hopefully have some people find a couple deals, whether they wholesale them to us, that would be preferable. If they wholesale them to anybody else, that's also great because they're making money and changing their future. So that's the beginning. That's like our base level of coaching. People just get access to that online course at the 500. And then after that, we do have like more intermediate and advanced stuff, but we don't really sell that. It's whoever's ready for it at the time.
what is the easiest way for somebody to get that online course? Somebody who's interested, how could they jump on and grab that today? What's the link to that?
Sure. Oh, thanks, man. It's a complete deal. It's sorry. It was the completedealflowsystem.com, but that's now a big mess. People go in there. We have 8 marketing managers trying to fight themselves over what they're doing with that. But they can go to shutupanddoit.biz. Shutupanddoit.biz to get access to the online tutorial. And there's a closed Facebook accountability group, and they get access to monthly calls and all that stuff, lifetime access to all that stuff.
Nice. Yeah, I love it, man. I love what you're doing. Nick, you're one of those guys in our market who to see what you've gone through, to see what you're building, to see your vision, see where you're going. It's great to have people like that here in Massachusetts. We do a lot of interviews, and it's, the guy in Florida, I love him. I love the guy in California. I love the guy in Texas. But to see it here in our market, it's like, dude, like we got hustlers right here building up Massachusetts, making it a better place to invest, a better place to live. I don't know if you want to, but can you talk a little bit about the big project you were working on recently? I think it was in Billerica.
Yes. So we have 2. I'm happy to talk about whatever you want me to talk about. Billerica is so my new role by being a leader to the team, though, and a motivator aside my business partner and COO Matt. I've also been focused on a lot of commercial stuff, and one of the commercial projects we're working on is a 24-unit condo development in Billerica, Mass, with a restaurant, and it formerly had an office and retail component too, but we've now changed all that for in exchange for more underground parking, which is what people want. So
much better. Good call.
Yeah, no, you're right, and everybody was right. So we have a restaurant. I'm passionate about that because Billerica, I grew up there, and it is a great town to grow up in. It has its challenges like every other town. You can relate to that as being a champion, for Fall River where you guys are. But it had good restaurants, but it never had like a date night quality restaurant. Yeah. And everyone would go to Burlington, Mass, around here, or Nashua, New Hampshire, or Chelmsford, Mass, like places around here. And this was like my opportunity to kind of leave an imprint. And I came in and I said, I'm going to hunt down. There's like 5 restaurateurs. I want one of them in this space. And I literally went and hunted down people and said, I've got a space for you. I'm willing to do whatever incentives, that still make sense that you're willing to do. Like, just need you to take a chance on this town. Like, take a chance on it. And so far we were doing great. We're still doing okay, but then COVID happened. So waiting to see what commitments stand by after post-COVID. But we're still going to planning board, I think June, for hopefully it's been a 1.5-year long process to try to get this thing approved. It's the first mixed-use development in Billerica. So working towards it. We'll see. Yeah.
I love it. So Nick, you're like me. You love your city, you love your town, and you grew up there. You want to see it better, and I'm sure you faced some. And I've seen some of the posts. Right, there's been some negativity from the locals, and you're just pushing past it. You're ignoring the naysayers and saying, you know what? I know this is better for the city. I grew up here. I want to put something good into my town, and so you're doing it regardless. What is the total cost on this project right now estimated? What are you looking at as a total cost? And what are you thinking the ARV will be at the end of this project? So obviously you're a real estate investor. You don't just do it for fun. Like, you're doing this to profit on some level. What is the big play on this?
You got it. Well, honestly, the returns have gotten smaller and smaller, and I had to be either okay with that or not based on my passion of leaving an imprint in the town. Yep. So that said, numbers are, I'm happy to share the numbers. They're not quite public yet because of planning board next month. You got it. But I will say that, we're looking at hard costs of over $12 million to put this thing together. Wow. And we're just trying to, I think that's hard and soft cost. I think that's our all in is over 12 million plus our, we have a purchase price there. And right now I'm into it for about 200,000. And we don't, yeah. And it's a risk, right? It's a risk. It was my risk. I took it. I was willing to take it. And if it gets to the point of approval, we'll then at that point see if it's investment worthy and open it up. But for right now, just my little humble project I'm working on.
I love it. And so to stay away from SEC concerns, we're not going to talk about the product or raising capital. So perfect, brother. Right. I love the way you handle that. You're like, yeah, I can't do any of that. But this is the product you're building and why you're doing it. That's awesome. So Nick, you're building a real estate team, and you're building a company around growth. And it seems like we're in the same mindset of, hey, look, just help other people do better and you do better. What brought you to that? Because you said 3 years ago you weren't there. What was the big change in your life that made you say, whoa, this is easier than I thought, and all I have to do is this one thing?
So funny you said that. There's two things that really come to mind. The first, when all the doors opened to me, I was very, very, very embarrassed and very tight-lipped about my start in real estate, right?
Yeah.
Like I didn't want anybody to know what I'd gone through. I didn't want people to know the credit challenges and the money and like the depression and like the terrible emotional state that I was in.
Yeah.
And I think it was 2009, which was the very first time someone suggested I open up about it and talk about it at one of those real estate meetups.
Wow.
And I don't know why. It was really hard. I got emotional. It was a really tough thing to talk about. But after talking about it, like that day, 3 people showed up like, hey, is there a way we can work together? I really love your integrity. And then another person said, I've got some money to invest. Like, do you do anything like that? And it's like, no, I don't know any of this. And I can't believe you're approaching me with, I just effed up royally. And here you
Right.
are like trying to, align with me. So that was the first big open, like where I guess I let my heart release. And since then I've, been just vulnerable at everything. We're very transparent. Like every time we have a screw up or I screw up, I let everybody know about it. And people like my screw ups more than they like our achievements. Right. But, that was the first one. And the second one was, it was at 2011-ish when we were putting together all the deal flow systems, the complete deal flow system. And I started realizing that, I could sell this for a whole bunch of money and try to make money on sales, but why? Like, why not just put this out there and try to, if people can make an extra 30 to 40 to 50 grand on this, and I get either $500 of that, but more so if I can get 2 deals out of it. I mean, so it didn't start from a place of selflessness. Like it really didn't. Like it was selfish, but not like I want to make money off this person. It was selfish. Like I want this person to do deals, but bring those deals to me. And
Right.
from that, like just being real, like I wasn't like selfless. Like from there, I'm like, oh shit. Like sorry, swore on your podcast.
No, I love it. You can say whatever you want, Nick. This is like the Howard Stern show. We're in our freaking living rooms, man.
Gotcha. That's true. That's true. It was from that belief and years later that did show me like I could just, right. I can now spend 3 hours with somebody just like you, right? Give them all the systems, give them all the procedures, give them everything they need. And if they can take 2 or 3 nuggets out of that and better themselves, they'll hopefully remember me for it. And if they don't, that's okay too. Cause I had an impact, 4th core value on their life. And that's all that really matters is again, living by those values. So I'm like way in a different place than I was 10, 15, or even 5 years ago. So thanks for asking that. I'm just being real. I wasn't
I love it, man. Cause we've hung out before and every time I get to see you, I'm like, oh, like there he is. Like there's Nick, like the genuine personality that you have, and like, there's so much perception out there that, as real estate investors, people believe that we would be competitive. And it's like, dude, no, like this is something I can learn from. This is something I can add value to, like Nick or Tom or some of the other big names, Eric Bowling, just in this state, and we're not the biggest investors, but we have the biggest influence in the area. And so when we hang out, it's like, oh man, like this is somebody who's going through exactly the same stuff in their local market. Or, sometimes Tom touches Fall River. Like, he comes down as far as Fall River, New Bedford. And if I can lend a hand, I lend a hand because it's like, yeah, absolutely. You should do this, good deal, not a good deal, whatever, because we're all in it together. He got the deal before I did. Perfect. Whatever. You beat me to it. Good for you. And sometimes I don't think I've ever beat him out on something. He's willing to pay more than I am. So God bless him, right?
Different buy box.
Different buy box. Yeah. And so, seeing what you've accomplished and where you're going, I want more of that in the world. I want to see more of what you're doing, more entrepreneurs thinking the way you're thinking of giving and training and teaching and pushing more of that out there as we're growing and expanding. What is the easiest way, if somebody was interested in joining your brokerage, what's the easiest way they could get in touch with you and at least qualify, see if they qualify to join your team and where you're going?
Oh, sure, brother. Thank you. They can just shoot us an email. My whole team checks. There's an email, info@aapremierproperties.com. And they can also check us out. I mean, we're all over, Facebook, trying to be over Instagram. My marketing department's on Instagram. I'm not on Instagram. I'm learning. I know I'm old school. Like now they're on TikTok. Who's on TikTok? Are you on TikTok?
I'm on TikTok.
I know you're on TikTok. Belcher's on TikTok. That's awesome. So we're on Facebook. You can check us out, AA Real Estate Group or AA Premier Properties there on Facebook. And yeah, man, we're just we're looking just like you said. And it's funny you mentioned that. I want to add what you just said. You know, people, we're being in Massachusetts, we do overlay, right? And we have our own businesses. But just like you mentioned, I used to look at it as fierce competition, but it was almost like the buddy system. You'd show up at a property, right? And they would have like 8 of us that we all knew each other, like in line waiting to get in there to see this property. It was funny, right? And we still get that to a point, right? If a wholesaler puts out a property especially. But
Yeah.
I tell everybody, if we're local, we can't afford not to be co-opetition. Like we have to work together in order to be better so that if and when a catalyst happens in the economy that pushes out an awful lot of newbie investors that thought they, were going to come in and make $1 million, but, they didn't have the liquidity to withstand whatever deals that they bought with their buy box. Like if they, like, I'll tell you right now, let's be honest. When COVID happened, we did what I learned to do in 2008, 2009. We immediately shrank our buy boxes down. We got very conservative, and what did that mean? We lost almost every deal, every appointment we went on, because there's always someone there who's going to pay more than us. And we knew that was going to happen. We knew it. But that said, we knew also what the ramifications would be if we went in on a slim deal and then something happened, right? So that said, we now have opened up even a little bit more because now we have different stats that are feeding us. But at the same time, like, we'll have to work together. What is it in your buy box, or what's your special skill that your team has that seller needs over another team that can pay more? And when we really highlight and drill down on what service do we provide, what's our differentiator, right? We're getting now deals that are signing that are much less than offers that they're showing us from national franchise, businesses, and from other bigger players around, because we have that differentiator, that small special thing that they need, that they didn't feel heard when other teams and other investors came in there. So I know you have the same thing, but you mentioned a hot button, and we teach this every day to our team. Like we have to live it and teach it and preach it, and only then will our customers, our sellers, see that happening. So anyway, good point you brought up. Just wanted to bring that up.
I love that, man. I love that. And it's true. We're all a team, man. We're all looking to get by, not get by. We're all looking to thrive. And the communities do better because we play nice together, right? The communities themselves, well, like you said, how do you service that client a little better? How do you service the community itself? Can you do more with that building than somebody else can do with it? And if you can, like, Tom in a lot of cases can do more than I do, then he goes and he overpays, but he puts out a better product. And so I'm a buy and hold where he's flipping. And so for him, he can do a little more. And I know you guys you still do a lot of turns, do a lot of flips. So there's things that you can do in your model that you could pay a little more to do a little more. And so that's okay. And you have competitors who have the same, they'll pick up that single family and run it to a higher standard than you will. God bless them, right? Like, they know the luxury market, do the luxury market. Or whatever it may be, whatever niche you're taking. You said the buy boxes. I love that you said it, because that's
their differentiator.
Yeah. And there's markets right around me I won't touch, right? I do Fall River, New Bedford, but I will not touch Taunton. It's right there. The deals are coming through. I pass it to other investors because it just makes sense to stay in my arena. And like you said, I impact my city, bigger than the other cities around us. So Nick, I love it, man. Like, so much. And this is every single time I talk to you, it's always fun. There's always some sort of education I get from you. You're always willing to give, and you're such a valuable person in our community. So it's just a blessing to have you out here with us. If you could go back to 20-year-old Nick and say to yourself, here's a 3 pieces of advice that are going to make you super successful in the future. These are the 3 pieces I want to give you. So this is for anybody listening right now, whether in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. It's never too late, but this is the core piece of advice that you would give. What are those?
You might have heard a couple of these before, Galter, but I have a few of them lined up.
Perfect.
Failure is not an option. Failure is necessary. That's one of them. And, you're going to have, the only way to grow is to go through the shit. The only way to grow is to go through the shit. So, I mean, God bless you if you're an investor and you've been riding the wave of this market cycle for the last, 8, 9, 10 years. And you've done nothing but make tons of money because the market's helped you and you've gotten your craft down too. Like, God bless you. But like, you won't be as prepared as people are who know what's coming, who know what market cycles are that have happened since the 1800s, what's going to happen. And you can still, you need to know how to make money at the top of the market. You know how to make money at the bottom of the market, but either way, in between, you have to still know how to impact people, even if the money's not there, because that's how the money will be there once it kind of settles in. So failure is not an option. It's necessary is one of them.
Yep.
Second one I've learned is you have to let go to make room for more and for growth.
Yep.
So that's lots of things, right? Lots of things, relationships, deals. They call them, a friend of mine, Frank Cava, calls them sacred cows, right? So the deal that you have that you think is still good is going to be the big home run that's going to make you $1 million, but then something happens in the market. The deal can still make you $1 million, but what's more important right now, holding out and that risk factor, or just liquidating and getting rid of stuff now to know that better deals might be coming, right? Like, but that's relationships, that's inventory, that's team members that are maybe poisoning. It's lots of things. Let go to make room for more. And we just love to hold on to that, right? We love the comfort zone of holding on to, and sometimes what we're holding on to is like this venomous viper pit like thing, but we don't even know. Like we're petting it. We're like, yeah, this is good stuff. I don't want to let it go because I don't know what's next. Yeah. So one of my coaches taught me that, and it was tremendous. And what would be the third? Let's see. Those are the two big ones. And notice they're all mindset, right? They're not even real estate related. And then the third one, all right, I'll say the third one, right? You wake up, you stayed up late the night before, you maybe had a few bourbons, a couple gin and tonics, and you wake up and your normal routine is you have to get up and you have to do 30 minutes of sweating, you do a meditation or you do some journaling, and you know you have to get your day started. But you know what? Your body doesn't want to get up. And your brain, there's a mind in there that is constantly fighting your better self. And this is the whole reason. Before I kind of journaled on that and kind of made it to what I know what it is today, which is literally a version of yourself that's doing its best to hold you back from becoming the better version of yourself. Before I had any of that journaled out, I answered that with a single tagline right there.
Shut up and do it.
Every single morning. I did that because I was scared of using the phone after my 2006 experience. I was scared of knocking on doors. I was scared of getting up. And I could find every excuse in the book to not execute on what I knew I even had to do that day. Like, had my priority set, knew what I was supposed to do, then I'd like find other shit to do that wasn't the shit I needed to do. Yep. And that's where this one came from, whatever that is. Like, that's where that came from. I just had to say it to myself over and over and over again, put it all over my rooms, my laptops. And ultimately that became our tagline for the whole company. Right.
Yeah.
And, that's, I'd say that's the third piece of advice is shut up and do it. And know that every day you wake up, that tug, there's the old version of yourself, the comfortable version of yourself, the version that doesn't want you to be that next level. It's doing its best to pull you back into that pit, and you got to fight through it. You got to fight that guy and kill that guy to become the next better version of yourself.
I love that, man. Those are three powerful pieces of advice. Nick Aalerud, you always deliver. And I felt it. You're like, oh, he's going for shut up and do it. I love it. So powerful, man. That is.
I had to put it in somewhere.
Oh yeah, it's already in there. And I know that you're focusing on doing a lot right now. When you get a little more free time, that will become your book. Shut up and do it, and it's gonna excel your company on the level that you haven't seen yet. So phenomenal job. Thank you so much for your time today, Nick. Until next time, man. When you have a choice,
you, brother.
I always work with the best. See you, man. Thank you.
That was awesome. Thank you, man.
Definitely.
Do I leave you or you stop the recording?
I'm leaving right now, but this is going to be on the podcast. So awesome. Later, man.